Me and my buddy, who I will call A, used to go deep in the woods. We would go on a hiking exploration trip every few months. We still go, just not as often anymore. And that is at least partly because of the story that I'm about to share with you all. It's about a time where we almost got our asses killed by gunshots. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but it was the most terrifying time of my life. A and I were about 2 days into our hike. We were sitting around the campfire, frying up some meat. We weren't out in the wilderness to hunt, just explore and have fun. We weren't rookies, thrill-seeking, and acting like jackasses either. We knew our shit about the deep woods. We had good situational awareness, always came prepared, and were always mindful of our surroundings. Suffice to say, we almost shit our pants when we heard this random voice coming from directly behind our campfire. We were just sitting, frying, relaxing, and then just out of nowhere, no kind of sound, no twig snapping, no indication that another human being was in the area at all. Hell, we would have seen tracks or activity, or something, when we were doing our usual scouting of the area before making camp. The voice just calls out "Hey guys, what's up?" all fucking casual like. We both kind of jumped and turned around in our seats. You could tell that this fellow was hoping for that reaction, cause he had this little grin on his face. It was just surreal. What kind of dumbass tries to jump scare random campers who could easily blow their head clean off? The guy looked kinda familiar too, like I had seen him in a movie somewhere. He was wearing these thick as fuck glasses. He was dressed in one of those military jackets that you could get in just about every store back in the 2000s, and some camo khakis. He had a green military style cap on too. I only remember all this because of the fear running through me, and the fact that he just looked so familiar. This guy took a step towards the campfire, and I kinda snapped out of my trance. He wasn't a massive dude, maybe only 5'7" or 5'8", and he had a little scar on his cheek. We just tried hard not to let the guy know he startled us, like a kind of macho tough guy power play or something. Me and A were just saying something like, "Hey bud, how's it going? You out hunting? How's the game?" You know, those sort of questions. Trying to act really chill and like we were in control of the situation. You run into all sorts of crazies around these parts, and I wanted to be prepared in case he gave me those "I'm gonna shoot you" eyes. He gave me his name, and I will just call him B. Before we even had a chance to invite him, B sat at a campfire and helped himself to a steak off the damn grill. A sarcastically asked if he wanted a beer too. B kinda snapped at him and was like, "Don't say my name like that." A and I both looked at each other as if to say, "What the fuck? Is this guy crazy?" We honestly could not tell if he was crazy or just joking. After that I was like, "Hey, do people ever say you look like X celebrity because you look kinda familiar?" He just kinda gave me a dead stare and was like, "Huh? Fuck are you talking about?" And I was like, "Yeah, you just look really familiar, like I've seen you in a movie before." A joined in and was like, "Yeah, I know what you mean, like that kid from the Goonies." I had like a light bulb moment and was like, "Exactly, Corey Feldman or whatever his name is." B just dead-eye stared at us both and was like, "Don't you mean Adam Sandler?" What the fuck? And then he went on to claim that everyone always compared him to Adam Sandler, that he looked just like the guy. I was just thinking in my head, yep, definitely crazy. This guy and Adam Sandler look nothing alike. I shot A look. Is this guy yanking our chains? Yeah, B said. People say that I look like Adam Sandler, but my friends call me Kyle. Wait, what? He explained they call him Kyle after Chris Kyle, the American Sniper dude, but he doesn't like being called Kyle because apparently he makes that guy look like a baby. B apparently was a trained sniper, and he told us about some of his best shots. I can't remember, and I can't be bothered to recount it fully, but the exact details of these claims, let's just say that as someone with even a passing interest in long-range rifles and snipers who comes from a military family, you would have to be the most talented marksman to ever exist in order to pull off some of the shots that B was claiming. It was to the point that some of them were not humanly possible. Apparently, He stayed prone for over 3 days without eating and drinking and using the bathroom just to avoid shooting a woman who was in the way of his target. This target was apparently a Taliban leader. A, who was getting a bit drunk at this point, asked why the woman and the Taliban leader were having a 3-day conversation in the first place, and B looked at him like he wanted to bite his eyes out. Genuine, absolute fury at being questioned. It was enough to sober A up fast, and let me tell you, that is no mean feat. The problem is, sober insulted A is a lot more confrontational than drunk mocking A. So when B told this next story, some elaborate yarn about ricocheting a bullet off of 3 different metal surfaces and saving a pregnant woman from a rogue American general, A called BS. Like literally, he just said BS and then started humming. B stood up fast and began to reach into the waistband of his pants. Both of us leapt to our feet, and within seconds, I had my own pistol trained on him. I don't drink, unlike A, and I do carry. I am the designated don't fuck with us guy when we go hiking, because you would be surprised how many times you need one of those. Now, B says, hey, steady on guys. We got a couple of wannabe soldiers on our hands, huh? Excuse me, buddy? You were the one who was seemingly just reaching for a gun. B then says that he could tell that he was not wanted, but that maybe we'd better watch out, because he owned this land. He didn't own this land. I knew that for a fact. Then he said he had every right to shoot us. He obviously didn't, but was trying to not so discreetly threaten us and scare us off. And then, B stormed off into the trees, never to be seen again by us. The next day, we packed up and continued on our hike. We were just walking along and chatting. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, we hear a crack and a bullet hitting a tree about 20 feet away from us. A and I are both like, what the fuck? Was some hunter taking pot shots at us? For some reason, the idea that it was B did not even occur to us at that point. We call out saying, hey buddy, careful, we're over here. We were wearing high-vis jackets and shit too. No way you mistake us for a deer or whatever. And then another shot rings out, and we can see it hit almost exactly where the first bullet had. A and I drop to the ground, run behind a tree out of line of sight of the shooter, and try to scour our surroundings. There is no sign of anyone. We just look at each other, and at the same time we both whisper, it has to be B. No way it could be though. Those shots were accurate. Well, the second one was anyway. And we have a whispered conversation, shocked that maybe B was actually telling the truth, at least to some extent. He was an absolute crack shot, even if he was a nutcase. But what the hell could we do? There was no sign of him anywhere, and we're just sort of sitting ducks out here. I decided to put something to the test. I grabbed something out of my pack. It was just a water bottle or something. I tossed it out into the open. The shooter fired and blew it out of the air. This was a serious, genuine pro. Fuck. Based on the directions the shots were coming from, and the size of the tree that we were hiding behind, I knew that we were somewhat safe behind it. So I called out, hey B, buddy, you're not trying to hurt us, are you? There was no reply. There was just silence, and then another gunshot, causing bark to explode from the same tree he'd shot at before. A says, screw this, and decided to run from one point of cover to another. My heart basically stopped. A shot rang out, and I expected to see my buddy crumple, but no, he made it to safety. And instead, the shooter had hit the tree A was aiming to hide behind. He was toying with us, and it was some kind of sick game. We ditched all of our equipment so that we could move light. All we brought was enough water to last us the day or so that we thought it would take to get back to the truck. We figured if we really pushed ourselves, we could make it without stopping. Now, the whole journey back, the shooter was taking pot shots at us, but shots designed to prove that he was a cracked marksman. He'd shoot at this thin branch off of a tree, and then he'd land a shot directly in the whirl of some trunk. And it was honestly uncanny, and I am almost starting to believe that this B guy was actually capable of the feats that he had claimed. The marksmanship that he was displaying was insane. And not once did we see the damn guy. He'd been dressed in basic civilian military gear when we met him, but not full camo. And besides, to stay hidden in the forest, he would have needed to change outfits at certain points, and it was like he was a goddamn chameleon, which, I guess, did fit in with what B claimed. Eventually, after hours of solid running and crouching and ducking, we saw the parking lot. We could not even stop and rest or feel safe. We never ever figured out where this guy was shooting from. At any point, if we'd stopped to breathe for even a second, we could have ended up dead. The truck appeared, and it was thankfully undamaged, and I say, hey, you did take your keys out of your backpack before you ditched it, right? Thankfully, he had them. A was so scared, he did not even try to make a joke about leaving them behind. I had no idea if B was still watching us. Maybe he wanted us to get to the truck, think we were safe, and take us both out, there and then. We waited for 5 and then 10 minutes. Then we heard that familiar crack sound, but it was far away. It was off in a different direction. I can't explain how, but somehow, it was almost like he was telling us that we were safe to go. We got into the truck, and before I got in, I noticed something resting on the windshield. It was a spent cartridge that I later discovered was some kind of Winchester cartridge. It had been placed there deliberately. I picked it up carefully as I could in my gloved hand and slipped it into a Ziploc bag that I had in the truck, and then we drove to the nearest town and obviously went to the damn sheriff's office. The sheriff himself was on duty, thankfully, and I guess it was a quiet day, 'cause he came out to meet us personally. We told him everything, and how we'd met this guy who seemed okay at first, but then became more threatening. We explained how the next day, he began taking extremely accurate yet intentionally avoidant pot shots at us, and the sheriff nodded his head, almost sagely and wisely. We got the impression that maybe B was some sort of local character, and we were about to hear some wild tale. The sheriff asked us to describe the guy that we were talking about, and so we did. We told the sheriff how he bragged about being a sniper and his missions and stuff too. Now, the sheriff asked us if he told us his name was B, and we said yeah. We were expecting him to nod and explain that B was some kind of veteran with PTSD or something like that, and we waited for his response. And instead of looking assured, the sheriff's face went white. He asked us to come with him and led us to the holding cells of the back of the station. He asked us if this was the guy that we'd met. Now, sure enough, B was sat on the cell bed, looking dejected and very hungover. So much so that even when he saw us, he perked up a little bit and acted like we were his buddies, here to get him out of there. I went to say something like, maybe you shouldn't have tried to kill us, when the sheriff interrupted me. Now, the night that we met B, he came driving into town blind drunk and got pulled over for a DUI, and then he'd been locked up in the drunk tank ever since. Whoever had been taking these warning shots was not B. We handed the bullet casing over to the sheriff. B shamefully admitted that he had put that on our windshield to scare us, so that clearly was not a clue. The sheriff promised to send out a team to investigate, but we had very little in the way of actual evidence. Just a blow-by-blow account of a guy who absolutely could have killed us, but didn't. He was never found, of course. The woods were a hunting ground. Bullet holes and bullet casings and bullet residue were all over the damn place. B seemed especially focused on wanting to help. I think he was offended at the thought of a sniper who was better than him. We don't go to that area of the woods anymore. Anyone have any idea what the fuck we encountered? Anyone else have any experiences with phantom snipers out in the woods? Hey, hope you've enjoyed the story so far. If you want to hear more, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment because it lets YouTube know you like the content and helps more people to see these videos. My next big goal for the channel is 100,000 subscribers, and as a celebration, I will be doing a Q&A video once we hit that goal. Thank you, and back to the stories. I was 10 when this happened. I was in a woods with a Boy Scout group. We are backpacking along a trail near the base of Mount Bachelor. We are gonna camp near a lake and do Boy Scout stuff. Fuck yeah. Me and my best friend Jay are super hyper and excited to put up our tent. My dad bought it for us. It's a special one that's made for 2 people. It has a cool skylight so we can see the stars. Scoutmaster keeps having to tell us to shut up and pay attention. We get to the camp. SM tells everyone to set up around the site. It's one of those ones that's definitely a campsite, but doesn't have buildings or showers. The forest is behind us. The camp is sort of just inside the tree line. In front is a stretch of meadow and then a big pond. To the sides are more forest. In the middle of the camp there are big logs set up in a circle and a fire pit in the center. Jay and I decide that we don't want to camp near the others, so we pick a spot way out on the edge of camp, away from the trees and closer to the pond. The scoutmasters don't want to let us, but they're too busy with the others that they decide fuck it and let us set up. It's me, Jay, and about 10 others, by the way. 3 scoutmasters, all pretty cool. One is an older guy, the other 2 are probably in their 30s. Anyway, we all get set up, and the SM tells us we are gonna go and swim in the lake. Oh hell yes. Jay and I engage hyperspeed and fly into our suits and are in the water before the SMs even have a chance to say anything about it. We are splashing and fucking around. The water is nice and warm because it's summer and the pond is small. Everyone else gets in. We start a game of Marco Polo. Guy who is it is about 10 feet away from me. Get that weird, hyperactive mania paranoia, and the closer he gets, the more I'm flailing around and splashing to get away. Dude is about to touch me, so I sink to try and touch the bottom to kick off. Something stabs into the bottom of my foot. Jesus, it hurts. I fly up out of the water, screaming. Everyone knows something is up, so they help me get out of the water fast. Old SM looks at my foot. Looks like a stick or something punctured it pretty cleanly. Not that deep, but it's bleeding pretty badly. SM takes me back to camp, and we try to figure out what to do. It's too late in the day to pack out. It was basically sunset. Try to decide if they need to send me and the old SM down alone. Luckily, the bleeding is slowing down, and we can see that it's not as bad as we thought. They ask me if I want to leave. Fuck no. Already, it's not hurting as much, and I just want to get back in the water. SM bandages it up after cleaning it, but says I can't get back in the water because amoebas. I have to sit around and watch everyone fuck around. Eventually, they all get out, and we split up into groups of 2 and get stuff to make a fire. Sun is almost down. SMs make dinner for us. When it's dark, one of the SMs gets out stuff for s'mores. Jay and I are fucking stoked. We offer to pass the stuff out to make it all go faster. Give everybody enough to make 3 s'mores each. Get to last guy. There is not enough. Ask SMs for more. They say there isn't any. We tell them there is not enough and show them that we all got 3 each, except for the last guy. SMs are super pissed. Start asking which of us is stealing more. None of us are. They decide they just must have miscalculated, and they each give one of theirs to the last kid. Everything is cool now. SMs just kinda laugh it off. Tell each other ghost stories until everyone is scared shitless. Right then, counselors douse the fire and tells us it's time for bed. Oh my god, fuck you. Get into our tents. Jay and I don't want to admit it, but we are both really regretting setting up so far from everyone else. Way too late to move to camp. We decide to leave his lantern on, outside, facing toward the trees. Both of us lay awake and look up through the skylight. Hey, Jay whispers. What? I have a story. A ghost story? Yeah. I didn't tell it because it's too scary. I immediately call bullshit. He starts telling me the story. When he was little, his granddad told him about how something lived out in the high desert and mountains. He called it the Wendigo, but as far as I know, he wasn't Native American or anything. He told Jay that it was a monster made of flesh that could look like anything it wanted, and that nothing could make it stop being hungry. Nothing could make it full or happy. He said it was all that was left of someone from a long time ago who did something very bad. told Jay that if he ever felt the thing was near him, or if stuff did not seem right, that he needed to listen to his instinct and get out of there. Jay asked how he knew about it, and his granddad told him he'd met one once. He'd gotten lost and was starving to death because the berries were all inedible and he could not catch anything else. He said he collapsed and watched as something impossible came out from behind a large boulder. It was like something was wearing his image. It looked like him, but it was not him, and he felt that acutely. He watched it walk up to him slowly and kneel down in front of his face. Granddad was scared shitless and did not know if he was dying or dead, or if this was hell or what. The thing that looks like him sounds exactly like him, and it says that if he does not make a deal with somebody soon, he is gonna die. Granddad starts praying loudly, but the thing just waves it off. The thing tells him that he is starving, and it goes into detail about what that means. How his fat is melting away, how his muscles are being sucked dry and are turning to mush, how even now the calcium from his bones is being stripped like a coal mine for anything valuable. It tells Granddad that it will only get worse, and that if he does not do something quick, the pain is going to continue until he dies. Tells Granddad that he absolutely needs to eat something. He just keeps saying that. You need to eat. You need to eat. Granddad screams that there is nothing, and the thing that looks like him just laughs. Of course there is, it says, and it points at his legs. Granddad is absolutely flipping shit now. Tries to pull out his rifle and shoot the thing. He is too weak, and the thing seems really upset. It is frowning, and it looks like the skin it is wearing is loosening. Granddad says it looked like a loose dress. Suddenly, the skin sloughs off in this awful paper-tearing noise and falls to the ground where it turns into dirt. What is left is this shapeless dry thing made of ancient flesh and bloody dirt. Embedded in its gut is a disgusting ancient deer skull. It's held in there by bloody, wet dirt. The blood is fresh. The arms are gangly and end in 3 long fingers. The head is almost cylindrical, like a can. It is clearly not a human head. It has 2 very small black eyes in the center of the face. It looks down at him. From somewhere in the thing, a horrible, high-pitched noise rings out. Granddad said it almost sounded like an insect. The thing crumbles into a cloud of dirt and bone fragments and is gone. Running on pure adrenaline, Grandpa picks himself up and sprints at least a mile or 2 until, by sheer luck, he stumbles upon a hunting camp. He survives, but refuses to go in the woods again. He says the thing is still looking for him, and that it will come for Jay too, so he needs to be careful. Jay finishes with that, and we are both quiet for a minute. Don't want to admit it, but I am freaked the fuck out. Tell him that's the most bullshit story I've ever heard. He knows I'm lying, and asks me if I think it's weird about the s'mores. I tell him to knock it off and let me sleep. In reality, I am shitting in my sleeping bag and too afraid to talk or move anymore. Jay somehow falls asleep after a while. I can hear him snoring. I eventually get myself to calm down enough to pass out. I have really weird dreams. I keep waking up, not sure if I'm actually awake. Seems like that night has been going on forever. Jay is snoring, and that keeps messing with my dreams. At one point, I have a dream that there's something out in the pond, and it's making this really weird, heavy breathing noise. Like it's having to rip each breath inside of it. My eyes fly open, and I can still hear the sound. I am looking up at the skylight. It is so dark, I can't even see the sky. I can move, but I am absolutely petrified. I am frozen in place, eyes wide open. Jay is snoring, but there is something underneath it. It's that same fucking breathing. That's when I realize it. The lantern is off. I should be able to see the stars. The fabric of the tent rustles. Something is looking down into the tent. I can barely make it out, but it is huge. It covers the entire skylight with just its head. I move slightly, and something catches just enough light from the moon to spark in its tiny, beady black eyes. It's looking at me. It does not have a face. It feels like my heart is frozen in place. I have no idea if I am awake or dreaming. I am shaking and slowly inching my hand toward the edge of my sleeping bag. The thing and I are locked in the stare down for at least 15 seconds. I finally get my hand around the bag and yank it over my head. I curl into a ball at the foot of the bag. Realize I have pissed myself. I don't even care. I can hear the thing rustling around outside the tent. It's making this kind of rubbing noise. I can only describe it as insect legs rubbing together. It brushes the tent near where I am curled. I try to scream, but it won't come out. The thing fiddles with the zipper for a second. My heart can't take much more. I feel like I'm going to pass out. The thing moves on. It's quiet. I pass out from sheer exhaustion. I wake up the next morning, groggy and stiff. I remember last night, and it feels all like a dream. I am still really freaked out, but I am not going to tell Jay about it. It was probably just a really bad dream. SMs make us breakfast. Jay is in a good mood and cheers me up pretty quickly. I forget about everything and have an awesome day in the woods earning badges. Jay is in a really good mood, makes me laugh like a motherfucker. We keep sneaking off to fuck around by ourselves. SMs just kinda let us do our thing as long as we stay close. Night comes around and we do another campfire. This time we just roast marshmallows since we are out of s'mores stuff. I am telling stories and Jay says he will be right back. He has to pee. SMs tell him not to go farther than the tree line. He walks a ways past camp toward the pond and I lose sight of him in the dark. He comes back a minute or two later and sits down. SM is telling a really good ghost story, so I don't really pay attention to what he's doing. I hear him crunching on something and look over. He's eating a s'more. What? You jerk. You're the one that stole, I said. He doesn't say anything. He just keeps on eating. What the hell? I ask him again. He still does not say anything. One of the young SMs notices and gives Jay a really angry look. Gets up and comes over. You need to give me that right now, he says to Jay. Jay does not even look at him. He just makes this kind of crying noise. What the hell is going on? Jay is acting completely weird. I am getting a bad feeling in my stomach. The SM tells him to get up and he takes his shoulder. Hears something crunch. It sounds like a dead leaf. SM yanks his hand back. There is a fucking dent in Jay's shoulder. Jay stops eating his s'mores and looks at me. It looks like something wearing Jay's skin, and it doesn't fit quite right. His eyes are saggy, and the mouth is too low. Suddenly, impossibly, Jay's voice comes from behind the group, which is now quietly watching the SM and Jay. Sorry, I was coming right back, but something knocked me into the pond. I don't know what it was, but it... Jay jogs back into the circle and sees something is really wrong. Looks at the thing wearing his skin. He goes completely white. The thing looks back at him, and the skin kind of bunches up in the center of the face. Jay stands up and drops the s'more, staring down the real Jay. Jay walks back toward the pond slowly, keeping its eyes on Jay. No matter how far away it gets, its head turns to keep the real Jay in view. The skin on its face is doing something, but it's too dark to see what exactly. It gets to the water with its head basically turned totally backwards. Old SM turns his huge flashlight on it without saying anything. All of us are dead quiet and shitting ourselves. No one moves. Jay's face pulls tight, so tight that the eyelids turn inside out. The skin rips and crumbles into the dirt. The thing wiggles free like a caterpillar from a cocoon. It's ancient and withered and bony in the wrong places. Looking at it hurts my brain. Nothing about it makes sense. The lumpy, tube-like head tilts sideways and then rotates back to the front as it turns to face us again. There is a fucking deer skull embedded in its stomach. Even from here, I can smell the thing. It's both dry and dusty, and also festering and damp and sour, like the mud from the bottom of a deep river. This thing lets out an ear-splitting screech. Everyone shuts their eyes and claps their hands over their ears. Manage to open one eye enough to see it slip back into the water. The sound cuts off as it goes under. All of us sit there, stunned. No one says anything. Then, basically as one, we all get up and sprint to our tents. SMs holler at us to stay inside until morning and not to come out for any reason. Jay and I cram ourselves into one bag. He is shaking badly and he keeps saying, "That was it, it came back. He said it would, it came back." Tell him to shut up and be quiet. All night we can hear something swimming quietly in the water. The next morning, we all throw our shit together and get the fuck out. Jay and I stopped talking to each other. Didn't really mean to. He just withdrew to the point that I could not reach him. Haven't spoken to him or anyone else from that trip since. And that, anons, is the scariest thing that ever happened to me.